The thing is, the gimmick lasted many years. I'd probably say from like 2012 all the way through like maybe like 2016-ish. And then at that point, people were like, you know, this is stupid. It's the same thing over and over. And then what ended up happening was people started stretching really badly to have content for these videos. So, for example, oh, let's egg on people to make really toxic, disgusting comments on DSP's videos because This Is How You Don't Play isn't very interesting on its own. So let's just highlight toxic comments from fucking idiots, you know, immature morons who want to make it into a video on YouTube, who are just going to sit there and say really disgusting things about Phil and his family and everything to try to get attention in a video. So what ended up happening was my comments ended up getting taken over, like all kinds of crap, all right? It was really annoying because here I am trying to make a living on YouTube, and now my content is being negatively affected by people who want to make fun of me because they're flooding my comments with toxic shit. Eventually, I just turned the comments off because I had so many of my actual loyal viewers saying, we've had enough, you know, like we can't even focus on the gameplay anymore because there's so many toxic comments, just turn off the comments. So I did. And essentially what happened was overnight, when I turned off the comments, This Is How You Don't Play died. Not to say that people don't still try to make them, but when people try to do this stuff, it's just not popular anymore. No, there's no This Is How You Don't Plays that come out in the modern era that get any kind of traction compared to how they used to. I mean, we're talking videos that used to get tens, if not hundreds of thousands of views, and now they can barely get to 10,000 views half the time. No one really cares about that crap anymore, all right? But sadly, it got worse for me because now it's, instead of This Is How You Don't Play, now it's personal attacks on Phil every day, slander against Phil, like we already mentioned on the pre-stream. So it's just as bad for me, it's just for different reasons.
Alright, back right at it. Let's see here. Let's make some adjustments really fast. Alright, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is DSP News 2nd Edition. I'm your host. And let's get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to tackle the continuation in some ways. Not in order, obviously, because that would require a little too much forethought on my part. The continuation of Phil's battle with internet censorship. Now, granted, not now. Now he's just being a bitch. But back in the day, though, he used to act like he was standing for something. And this is his fight against Sopa and Pippa. The very thing that in recent times he said that he should be respected for. He should be revered for. He should be acknowledged for. Now, in the first video of this small mini-series, if you will, not really a mini-series because it'd be in order if that was the case. But anyway, doing it Quentin Tarantino style, we went over his initial Sopa and Pippa plea and how the case was not transgressing, how it is progressing, I should say, in Congress at that time. That was like in January, if I remember correctly. Hold on a second, I actually have notes. I'm not completely unprepared. That was January 19th of 2012. What eventually ended up coming out of that video, looking at the comment section, is one of you guys had pointed out, big ups to you by the way, that he had done like 5 of these. I thought there was only like 2 or 3. Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 of these things. There might be even a few more, but there's at least 5 or 6. So we're definitely go over all of those, not necessarily in order, but he was really trying to squeeze this lick. He was really trying to squeeze it. For one, it was going against his bottom line at that time. If those bills, I should say, respectfully, actually went through. But on top of that, the first video he did, which he looks like a total slob, by the way. We'll get into that one. He ended up getting at least at current, in our current year of gout, 2020, he's at oh man, he must be at like 800. It's either 600 or 800,000 views on that video, something like that. Probably one of the more successful videos he's ever done. Hence the reason why there's like 5 or 6 more that followed it up And in typical DSP fashion, they declined as the videos came out. He said they were just updates, just trying to keep people in the loop. But in actuality, it was a nice little lick. You know what I'm saying? He made quite a bit of money off that first video. What am I talking about? He's still making money off that video, but he must have made quite a bit of money off that video, which only inflated an already overinflated ego to make him believe that his word meant something. It didn't. He wasn't the first person to talk about it. He was probably one of the loudest people to talk about it. But at the end of the day, he didn't really bring anything to the conversation except for we, they're going to take my money away. We, this may hurt you guys too, but I don't really care about that much. We, you guys need to go and stop that. I'm going to be the mouthpiece. It's essentially the early, some of the early signs, not signs, some of his earliest demonstration of trying to orchestrate a movement, which eventually will be his cult, so to speak. But he couldn't keep it all together. That's why he has to keep his stream numbers small. That's why he has to keep the regulars, if you will, small. It's easier to keep track of them in that Gestapo chat and the even more Gestapo mods that he has over there. So anyway, we're gonna go over this and whatnot. Not sure how long it is, and eventually we'll cover the other ones. I'm gonna sprinkle it in between because, I mean, I'm giving you a few of these. I'm going to do two now. We already did the first one. It's already out. We're going to do this one, and then we're going to get into some other stuff that I found extremely interesting. And then we'll jump back and forth with us. A lot of people had basically said, did I have to manipulate that thumbnail in the last, in the SOPA video? I didn't. That was an actual screenshot of what he did in the video. I don't alter it or do anything like that. So it is what it is. But some of the thumbnails going forward, though, you might actually see from Ghostly Wins. So, and he's funny, so, you know, you might have a comedic spin with that. He likes to meme it up on Twitter if you're not following him. You should. So that's a thing. Anyway, like I said, let's go ahead and get into this, and then we're going to get into some more interesting stuff that I found that I think highlights Phil and a lot of his bullshit moving forward. That's a thing. I have a couple announcements coming up later, but that'll really be for the main channel. That won't affect anything that's happening here, per se. And that's it. I'm going to have to make a bit of an adjustment, which eventually it was going to come down to this either which way, so that is what that is. Yeah. But like I said, that doesn't affect you guys here on the Fight Club channel. You guys aren't here for that. You guys are here for the funnies. So let's go ahead and get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News 2nd edition. And I'll see you guys in just a second. Oh boy. Oh boy.
What's going on, everyone? Darksydephil here with an extremely important video. And I really urge you to pay attention if you at all care about video game footage on the internet, karaoke, music, anything regarding freedom of speech on the internet. Please watch this video. It is in regards to both the Protect IP Act and the Stop Online Piracy Act, which are currently in the House of Representatives and the Senate of the U.S. government right now. We're going to talk a little bit about them, the status of where they are right now, and what you can do to act against them, okay? Anyway, before...
What you can do to act against them, not what we could do and should do. Keep in mind in that, because the devil's in the details. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with DSPGaming. Alert. Action still needed to stop online censorship. This is from November 26th of 2011. The previous one that we went over that had to do with online censorship was from January 19th of 2012. So like I'm kind of jumping back and forth. So that's the thing with that. November 26th of 2011. Yeah, he was really trying to milk this shit. He was trying to milk this shit hard. But yet again, to go ahead and inflate his own ego. Now, a couple observations I'd like to point out to you, and then we can go ahead and get started. Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is at the end of 2011, you know, where the YouTube money and everything was at, right? Right. You can see how he's already crowding his space. 2011, he cries about the economy. He was crying about how there's no jobs. He said that through pretty much all of 2012. He said that pretty much the whole time he was in Connecticut. But yet, he found all this time and apparently has all these resources, all this disposable income, if you will, to go ahead and purchase all that shit around him. I want you to think about that for a minute. Excuse me. You know what I mean? You've got all these statues around us. We have some of the artwork in the background, which eventually he ends up getting more. But yet he kept crying and complaining about how the economy was bad. And at this time, if you go back into some of those comment sections, people speak on, well, you know, hey, you might have to get a real job now. Hey, you might have to go and get a job now. This, that, and the third. Like, it's a reoccurring thing with Darksydephil through the years. And yet, at the same time, you're going to sit there and scream, economy this, economy that, and yet you're purchasing a new statue with almost each and every update or alert video or help video or attention video. Did this idiot really have no self-awareness whatsoever? Now, here's another thing, too. And not to necessarily throw any shade at John or Howard or OJ or any of his bosom buddies, but no one ever thought about telling Phil as his friend. These people are supposed to be his friends, right? They're a brotherhood, right? That, hey, and maybe they did, so let me not be a complete and total asshole about this. That, hey, Phil, do you really need all this shit, man? Oh, no, come on, John, it's really cool, man, you know? It's something really nice, man. It kind of helps spruce up my bar and this, that, and the third. No one really cares about that. Actually, especially since the majority of his audience were kids at that time, you're only pulling attention away from what you're trying to talk about because you have all these figurines in the background. Did you not realize that whatsoever? Do you not understand what exactly and what exactly is and what goes into public speaking? And especially the importance of having a very minimalistic type of background or backdrop, if you will. You never thought about that? That didn't make any real sense to you? Which just goes to show what attention he wants to be brought to himself. Because no matter what he's talking about, the main point that he wants to show you is that, hey, I'm a gamer. I'm older than you guys, right? Because he is. He's older than they are. But I'm a lifelong gamer. I'm into pop culture. I understand all of this cool stuff or whatnot, and I'm kind of bringing you into my hobby. I'm bringing you into my world. I'm bringing you into my privilege, if you will. I've always taken a look at how Phil has conducted his backdrop, and, you know, his background and all the shit that he bought. And that's one of the things that kind of always rang out to me. This was him flexing his privilege. You know what I mean? Despite him saying multiple times over the years that I might, you know, this is hurting my income. I might go poor. Despite the fact that he's spending money almost as quickly as he makes it. Just an observation on my part. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. But I always found that to be very interesting nonetheless. Let's continue.
Before we get into that, obviously my own agenda here. If you are a fan of mine and you're looking for new footage, there will be no new gaming footage today. Today is Saturday, November 26, 2011. However, I will be attending a fighting game tournament over at Gaming Etc., which is a gaming center in Stratford, Connecticut, very close by to me. If you would like to see live footage of that event, tune in to www.twitch.tv/don'tblowthis. I'll put a link in the description of this video. There's going to be a live stream today. I'll be doing commentary all day on that stream, roughly starting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but just to be safe, if you really want to know when it's going to be starting, follow me on Twitter @TheyCallMeDSP. I'll be tweeting when the stream goes up. And also, all during the stream, I'll be taking tweet questions. So if people have questions for me, you'd like me to address something during the stream, maybe during some downtime, tweet me at TheyCallMeDSP, and I'll be answering questions. Okay, so that's out of the way.
Let me jump in. So first thing is, there's a tournament. All right, I guess Don't Blow This is going to be, which I can't remember if Phil's associated with that or not. I feel like that might have been something like him and John and Howard had. Like they had like a website. I feel like there was a website or something for that. I feel like Tevin has gone over that. But all right, whatever. They have a tournament going on. Don't Blow It is basically hosting this. But tweet at Phil but follow Phil on Twitter. Just so you guys know when the tournament starts and everything. Does Don't Blow This not have its own Twitter account? Does the game shop itself that's hosting this tournament not have their own Twitter? Or is Phil just going ahead and foregoing all of those so you can go ahead and come and watch him being the main event? Another thing too, he's on stream. he is going to be hosting the stream essentially. So if you have any Twitter questions, you can go ahead and address that to him. But why would you tweet at him on Twitter when you can just go ahead and just ask him on stream, especially during downtime? Commentators do that all the time, especially now. Yet again, one of the things that I should point out, and I'd like to try to stress to you, is that in a lot of ways, this idiot, because that's exactly what the fuck he is, was at the forefront of a lot of different things. And he could have done a lot if his dumb ass was willing to learn, if he was willing to listen, if he was willing to grow with the actual industry itself, if you will. You know what I mean? I heard in a recent video that someone said that Phil could have been PewDiePie at one time. I'm not going to go there with that. That's a bit. I can't remember what video that was because I was like listening to a bunch of them through a playlist, and they kind of melded together. My apologies. My apologies for that. But or maybe they didn't word it exactly that way, and maybe that's just how I heard it. But I'm pretty sure someone was like, he could have been PewDiePie. Now, granted, I'm taking it with a level of sarcasm that comes into all that, but I would let's say this: he would have never been PewDiePie. He never would have been Markiplier. He'd never been Maximilian. But him and Max could have had a nice little rivalry, if you will. Max, for example, has been doing this for a very long time, and he cultivated a fan base. He has his slip and fumble, his slip and falls. He's had his fumbles. Max has had a lot of things, or he's had some things, but he was always able to bounce back. People believe in Max. That's one of the things. Like, Max is not only entertaining, he's not only knowledgeable, right? He's somewhat relatable. I guess it depends. Some people feel a certain type of way about, like, how is someone cheerful like that all the time? I don't know. Maybe they have good weed where he's at. I don't know. But either which way, that he has a child on the way. So, that right there is something to certainly be happy about. Either which way, Max is someone that people believe in. And he hasn't given people a reason not to. It is fair to say, to some extent, because some of you guys are former fans anyway, at least some of you. So I would assume a small percentage of you, but some of you were fans at one time of Phil of yourself. So you guys can kind of relate, or at least understand, what I'm trying to come from when I say that people used to believe in him. The problem is, fundamentally, is that Phil doesn't believe in himself. He needed you, as fans, to keep himself going, so he could continue to believe in himself. This is someone that has said, on record, that he was a nobody. He felt like a nobody before you two. That right there should tell you about what kind of individual he is, and later on, ladies and gentlemen, what he turned out to be, which is actually one and the same. He just got worse. So when people, for example, like to say, hey, GTG, I really enjoy your stuff or whatnot, don't you think you're a tad bit harsh on him? Don't you think that maybe certain things should be taken into consideration, given, what Phil's mentality is, or what his mental state is, and so on and so forth? I can carve into that if you want, but that doesn't help him either. It really doesn't. And if so, that was a problem that he should have, that I would hope his parents would have addressed. And in turn, as an adult, he should have continued addressing and working towards. If he didn't do that, that's his own choice. If he thought self-medicating was his best bet, hence the reason why all that drinking was going on for that bad back, as well as other things, by the way. We'll talk about more of that, later on down the line. We'll just keep that between us for right now. If he thought going ahead and self-medicating and thinking that he was above the medical establishment or the medical system, despite his history of being on medication, cocktails of medication by his own admission, if he thinks he was above people who were actually knowledgeable in that field, then he got what he got. I can't feel sympathetic for that. Not at all. That's like Amberlynn Reed, for example, someone that I like to go ahead and take shots at. She knows that she's not in the best physical health, but her mentality, her mental health isn't exactly the greatest either. It may she'd be doing herself a great justice and doing herself a major favor if she went and sat down and actually talked to somebody. Like, like talk to a therapist and actually work out your shit And she won't do that. She believes she's above that. Oh, I understand what's going on. I know what I'm doing. I understand how my weight loss journey should be. And gain like 200 pounds in a goddamn year. Stuff like that. And the reason why I would target her, if you want to consider that targeting, is because she knew what she was doing was wrong. She said that the whole time she was packing all that weight on. And so she didn't just wake up one day and she had gained 200 pounds in a year and a half, 2 years, whatever. She knew what she was doing as she was progressing through it. Look at all those mukbangs. Look at all those trips to Lexington, that 2.5 hour trip from where she's at, to get Cheesecake Factory, and then gorging herself crazy. Think about all that delicious Mexican takeout she was doing. Think about all the Chinese buffets that her and Becky used to raid. She knew exactly what the hell she was doing. She knew what she was doing when she was with Destiny, too. That's just what she is. I mean, it's the reality. It's what she is. And now she gets upset about, oh, well, I feel like no one takes me seriously. Which is true. I feel like you people are really kind of just here for the negativity. No one cares if I do anything positive. Yeah, you're right. No one wants to see you do anything positive. Well, that's not true. Let me take that back. People do want to see you do positive. They're just not the ones that are paying the bills. But let's keep it 100. Like, I'll keep it a stack with you guys right now. The reason why Amberlynn is feeling the way she is now is because she's gotten older. And the body's starting to slow down on her. And now it's really starting to hurt. And now she's starting to realize, you know what? I might actually really want to try this time. For the 100th time or however many times it's been. I really want to try now. The problem is with her really wanting to try is because no one gives a fuck. No one cares that she wants to try now. Because all those people who had faith in her, who believed in her, she didn't let them down too many goddamn times. Which means now, that demographic has now shrunken over the years. Now the only people that are left are there for the trash fire. Hey bitch, are you not eating yourself to death? Oh, I don't give a fuck. Hey bitch, you got some drama going on with somebody else? Oh, I want to see that. Oh, you're not doing that? I don't give a shit. And that's why that 25 days of Vlogmas or whatever that was, that's why it didn't do well. Because she got all that positivity. The likes were up. The positive comments were up, but the views weren't there. I mean, for what she engages in, positivity don't pay bills. At least it doesn't pay bills to fit the lifestyle that she has. Same thing with Darksydephil. Both of them have become magnets for trash fire. That's what people want. No one gives a shit about your positivity, because either you're lying, or if it's even remotely legitimate, no one cares because it's not going to last very long. So now they have no choice to live the way they live. But they were the ones who perpetuated that. They were the ones who started that. That's the truth. And if they can't accept it, so be it. But that's what your end-all be-all is going to be. And I think it's starting to sink in with Amber. I think it's sinking in with her really fucking hard. And she don't like it. And here's the reality. At least with Amber. Whatever self-improvement that you're trying to do is, guess what? Self-improvement for you, not for everybody else. That's like what Greek God said the other day. So there are some oil chic, some young kids of some oil chic and shit who used to watch Greek God, and now that Greek God has lost all that weight, they're like, well, he's not funny anymore, or he's not as entertaining as he once was. So I don't watch him no more. And a lot of people saw their comment and were like, and kind of basically rolled with it. They were like, yeah, I feel the same way. He's not as funny as he used to be. So on and so forth. Greek God ends up seeing this and is like, well, he didn't say fuck off or any of that dumb shit because he's smart enough not to. Let's be honest. He's not that smart, but he's smart enough to realize not to do that. But Greek God was basically like, okay, I'm doing something positive for myself, and you guys don't want to, you guys feel that don't come by and support me anymore, meaning that just watch his content. He's not saying give him money directly. But you guys don't want to like watch any of my content anymore because now I'm not fat anymore. Like, you know, I did this to try to make myself healthier, and if you guys don't want to, and you guys don't want to come by anymore because I'm trying to do best for myself, I don't understand that. But yet again, that goes back to my original point. You did that for you. You did that for you. So who gives a shit at the end of the day? You did that to give yourself a better quality of life. So you could live longer, Greek. So you could get married or do whatever the fuck you plan on doing with your life. Who gives a shit if people aren't happy with that? Who give a shit if people think you were mildly entertaining at one time or another when you were a slob? At least that's how some of the people referred to you as a slob at that time. And whatnot, and you're not that now. You're probably better off without those people, to be honest. But yet you keep wanting the grass for them, which don't make a whole lot of sense. Let's go back to Darksydephil. Phil's like that too. Phil's just like that. Phil says, oh, I've gotten better over the years. He hasn't. Oh, I've changed up. He really hasn't. And I don't understand why these detractors and these haters and trolls and critics keep coming at me. Why can't they just give me a chance? Last time I checked, ladies and gentlemen, I thought we were all the brain-dead fucking idiots that need to have the doctors come, put us in white coats, and take us away. So why the fuck does he still want us to support him when he says we're the ones who ruined his life? What sense does that make? But Phil says that a lot. That's why detractor keep coming out his mouth. A lot. Almost as much as the dark meat goes into Catherine's mouth. A lot. Wink, wink. So it's kind of interesting why he keeps trying to appeal to the detractors. And he's trying very, very hard to convert us, if you will. Or he's trying very hard to win our approval. But why? I thought we were the ones who brought you down. Oh, because Phil, at least in some way, realizes that it's the people that tear you down are probably the ones that can lift your ass back up. And he's holding out for that, which is really, really pathetic. And this is the reason why we're going to go over a lot of this old shit. Because over time, you guys are going to see a lot of that. It's going to be absolutely amazing how supposedly these group of people, these group of fucking kids, right, took everything from him damn near. And even now, he's still trying to, he's still now trying to reach out to them and in the hopes that eventually they'll convert over to his side. Not stop. He says he wants people to stop, but he really don't. He really wants to convert them over. That's really what he wants. That's what a lot of these people are chasing after. It's funny how self-improvement online really isn't self-improvement for some people. It's really weird. It's really strange. You would think if you're a better person, right, then in turn your content will be better. Oh, well, you know, but you guys were there in the beginning and now you guys don't support me. Well, maybe you don't need those people anymore. Maybe you can just inspire a whole new group of people. Oh, or maybe it comes down to the fact that you've been doing your garbage so long and people saw you at your highs and they saw you at your lows, that you're scared that a new group of people who come in might be even more critical of you than the people that you already have. You're comfortable with the people that you know instead of branching off to meet new people and try to reach out to new people. But that's weird because you're on the internet. That's what this all is. I don't know. I'm just a brain dead detractor. But I am a cute pup in a sharp suit. Don't get it twisted.
I really need to talk about what's going on right now in the U.S. government with a big update. First of all, I want to say an overwhelming thank you to everyone who's watched my previous videos regarding Act S.978 and also the Protect IP Act, both of which were looking to basically censor the internet, put people like me in jail as a felon for putting video game footage on the internet, and just completely going overblown with what they're actually trying to do as a bill or as a, an act.
Now, I want you to think about that. Oh, they were going to put me in jail. But then and again, as I've spoken about in the last video covering over this, he wanted Tevin to go to jail for restreaming him. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It's funny how, out of all the people that restream Phil, it's the dark-skinned fellow that needs to go to jail. Not all the other guys, though. Not the other ones. They're okay. You know what I'm saying? I guess because, assumingly, they look like Phil, so that's all right. Only the dark-skinned guy needs to go to jail. But then when Phil could possibly go to jail, we have to make multiple videos and whatnot saying that he needs you guys to come and support him and support this act. Because if not, I don't know how they treat Phil in jail. I assume that they're going to be braiding something as, or he'll be braiding something as somebody else's. I don't know. He's more than likely going to be somebody's bitch. As if he isn't somebody's bitch now.
These bills are really trying to do is stop online piracy, okay? The Motion Picture Association of America has basically employed hundreds of lobbyists to go to the White House, to go to Capitol Hill, and to basically tell our senators and our representatives, listen, we really hate piracy. Piracy is destroying our industry. It's taking away jobs from people in the motion picture industry. So what we need you to do is pass these bills that are going to stop piracy. And that's all well and good. If that's really what this was all about, and if this really were what these bills would do if effectively passed in the form that they're in right now, I don't think anyone would have a problem. And I don't think there's anyone out there who logically would say that piracy is a good thing. I mean, piracy, we all know, it does. It takes money out of the pockets of hardworking people.
But how broad is that definition of piracy, though? Like, is that using a sound clip from a movie? Is that using a portion of a movie? Is that using a small sound clip of a lyric, of some lyrics from a song, whether country, whatever the case may be, rock, whatever it is of your choice? Is that you even saying the lyrics of a particular song or something like that when you think about piracy? Because then piracy kind of goes, I would think, hand in hand with copyright and then in fair use. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a bit more broad than that. It's a lot larger of a scope when you think about it. And so when Phil says, oh, well, if it was just for piracy, I could understand that. Well, it really wouldn't. Because then, in a lot of ways, you would be giving people the foothold that they need, that a lot of these big motion pictures or the music industry or whatever, as if they're not, the music industry isn't already screwing YouTube over, you'd be giving them an even larger foothold than what they're probably even going for if you're not careful about that. Because it's politics, in a lot of ways, is a lot like Darksydephil. Hence the reason why people say he should have gone into politics. You give Phil an inch, and trust me, I'm sure if you talk to Pandish, he'll tell you that he knows a lot about inches. He'll run with it, and he'll take it and go with it easily. Let me give you a modern day example. That whole vest situation, that online prostitution, as Brittany Venti would say, look at that. That initially started off as not even a gimmick. That was him reminiscing on his last retrospective stream or whatever. Now he ain't whoring himself off into a 20+ streak on that. But initially though, at the very beginning, he said this is only for special occasions. This isn't something to be an everyday occurrence. It's not meant for all that. But yet he's like 20+. He's on a 20+ streak with that. It's almost as high as any win streak he's ever had. And those are few and far between. So you see the contradiction with that? You see how he got these wheelchair symbols to enjoy it just enough to now he running with it. And then he's trying to blur the lines a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm really reference heavy. My apologies. But then he's trying to blur the lines with this whole thing about, oh, there's the vest goal and then there's a tip goal. They're really just the same thing. The only difference is with the vest goal and that stupid ass cowboy hat, which now I'm being told he wants to use gunner glasses now, which that's a whole nother thing in itself that I'm ready to carve up. I'm sorry, I just kind of lost myself there for a minute. All right, we're back. So it's funny how he went ahead and said that, oh, this was meant to be special. This is just something we do on special occasions. And now he's whoring himself out with this vest goal. And then he also puts in the caveat that, oh, well, it can end at any given time. You know, it is what it is, but I'm glad that we're on this streak. But the only reason why people do it, right, is because they get an immediate payoff. It's something that they're guaranteed that Phil will do, instead of all of the false promises that he's given later on. Another example, that cowboy hat. He hits $200 to get to put on that goddamn cowboy hat as well, and half the time he don't even want to wear the damn hat because he says it's too hot. You know what I mean? Or he feels like he's overheating. But that don't make a whole lot of sense because Axe the King is usually held in the middle of the day, which more often than not is usually the hottest part of the day or the warmest part of the day. And he never seemed to have a problem with it then, but he has a problem with it when he's playing video games? Well, that don't make a whole lot of sense. That seems weird. Oh, and then most of you might make the argument, oh, well, come on, GTG, he needs his headset though. He needs the acoustic sound, bruh. He needs the ambiance of the game that he's playing. Why? He still plays it poorly anyway. And sound cues don't help him at all. Let me give you another example then. Street Fighter. Do you really need to have headphones on to play Street Fighter? No, but I can understand why you could. Or I understand why you would, I should say, because pro players do it too. Some of them anyway. Here's the thing with Phil, when it comes to having sound for a fighting game, his reflexes and reactions are completely and totally off. Period. So it doesn't help him either which way. He can barely react to what he sees. You think he'll be able to do it to what he hears? And there are plenty of pro players who will tell you that they usually react to what they hear before what they see. It's just a natural habit. Phil can't do that. I don't think Phil was ever really good at that. He came up at a time when they weren't really using headsets like that. You had no choice but to go off what you see and what you hear. And look at how far that got him. 4th place at an Evo. So, is it really that important? No, it's not. He just doesn't like wearing that goddamn hat anymore because that hat is linked to another part of his, air quotes, legacy, Axe the King, and he doesn't want it to be made a mockery of. That's the same reason why I think he wants that this vestige or whatever the fucking stupid shit's called. That's why he wants that to end. Because he realizes, you know what, I've profited quite a bit from this. And eventually this is going to fade out. And if it does fade out, I won't be able to bring it back and profit from it again. So let me try to end it now while it's somewhat still hot. And then we'll be good. That's where this gunner glass dumb shit is coming from. First off, this idiot has glasses. Why the fuck isn't he wearing them? Like, glasses that he really needs to see. Why aren't you wearing them? You want to put on gunner glasses that are going to take some of the strain off your eyes, but that doesn't actually correct your vision. It takes some of the strain off. So this way you're not rubbing your hooves into your eyes so to make your eyesight worse. But it doesn't actually correct your vision per se. It just takes some of the strain off your eye. Or your eyes, sorry. And now he's trying to convince people to give him $200 to wear those that's supposed to help him. Well, supposedly. And he's not exactly the most cheerful about it because it's not clicking. And the reason why it's not clicking is because the dumbass bought them and never wore them. So no one has anything to reference. No one has a connection to it, and or they don't have a situation that they could refer back to when he wore them to make them want to have the nostalgia. You see how stupid Phil Burnell is? You see how fucking dumb he is? Everything eventually fades out. He can't do that vest bullshit forever. But more importantly, it goes back to what we've all said about him before, at least certainly me, because I've said it quite a bit. He's a fucking whore. He's a goddamn whore. He'll literally do anything for money. And on top of that, he's a hypocrite because when other people do air quote gimmicks for their streams and for their stream audience, and if they get large contributions for it, they're sellouts. They're shills. They're only doing it for the kids. That's the only way they can make money. They can only make money off stupid kids. But what the fuck is he doing? You know what I mean? But anyway, sorry. Been on a bit of a rant there. Going back, let's come full circle. So, yet again, you can't necessarily say that you agree with the status quo on piracy when you don't actually understand what the stipulations or what is even considered the full definition of piracy and what all of that encumbers and what all that covers. It could have fucked him even more in the long run. You know what I mean? So, he should think a little more before he talks. I mean, granted, I guess I could go for a lot of us, but even still. But it doesn't matter now because he turned out to be the failure that most people said he was going to be anyway. So, womp womp.
Problem is these bills that they're trying to currently pass right now in the House and the Senate are insanely general, overreaching, and they're going to give basically unlimited power to the point where it could really be overblown. It could destroy online commerce. It could destroy online culture. Websites like YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, all these websites could be completely changed. Their business models overnight will be forced to change because of these acts. And we're going to talk a little bit about why, and then I'm going to tell you exactly what we can do to stop these bills, okay?
Now, I want to focus a little bit after that, or really with me going on that rambling campaign just a minute ago. I want to talk about this concept of change, right? And so on and so forth. Phil don't have no other options. I mean, he does. At this time, he could have gone back to work in his field. But then, I've been thinking about this lately. Maybe Phil really couldn't. But let me finish my initial point. Change, right? He hates change. He hates the idea of changing. And he hates conforming, despite the fact that in his current position, he has no other choice. He's going to have to conform with whatever the status quo would eventually be. If not, he's going to be fucked. Well, he dodged the bullet with this. But when YouTube itself decided to do internal changes to how the algorithm worked, to how the search engine worked, and how search criterias worked, he ended up getting screwed. Not because it affected him immediately. It's because he wouldn't change with the times. That was his own fault. Change has always been a big thing for Phil. He wants to do everything the way he wants to do it. And if he's in a situation where he's profiting, he wants that to stay the same too. He doesn't want to have to put any more work into it. He doesn't want to have to put any more effort to it. He just wants things to be the way they are forever. And who thinks that way? Well, this idiot. That's why he's in his, late 20s? Damn near almost 30? If he's not 30 at this time. Actually, I think he is 30. And we're dressing like we're still in our 20s. And it'd be different if he could, pull it off. If he actually looked healthy. If he actually looked like he was in his 20s. But he don't. He looks old here. He looks old here. And it's funny too when we talk about the patchy beard thing. Phil tells you, what does Phil tell you guys? Oh, it's just some gray hairs that have kind of come in or whatnot, and or white hairs or whatever, and that's the reason why it is what it is. Well, how do you explain that right there? It looks patchy to me. To be honest. Just saying. I think he's never been able to grow that out flush. To be honest. And if they did, there were some rare occurrences. But it's obvious that it started to thin out. But that's neither here nor there. Now, so that's my situation when it comes to change and why Phil doesn't react to change well. Because Phil, when he's comfortable, when he's complacent, he doesn't feel a need to do anything because, well, the system's working out fine. I'm making all this money. I'm buying all this garbage that I don't need, and I'm going to hawk to my fucking dumbass fan base in a couple years anyway. Everything's great. If I'm doing fine, then the world itself must be doing great too. So why does anything need to change? Despite the fact that he says in Connecticut at the time, and even now, according to him, the economy's still bad. But let's go back to what I was saying initially about Phil may have not have actually had any real options to get a real job. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen, and all the stories that Phil has told you about his time working and all the problems that he's had, all the shortcomings, basically his mouth and his goddamn ego. I think the reason why he worked at the helicopter company is one, and he's admitted this, that his father got him the job. Now, he tried to downplay that later on and say that, oh, yeah, my father, did work there. He'd been there for a long time. He had connections, but it wasn't nepotism. They chose me because they believed that I could help contribute to their company. It had nothing to do with my dad. That's a lie. You were brought in because you're on your father's word, on your father's merit. And why were you brought into the helicopter company, Phil? Because your work history was so bad, because you hadn't quit or fired a shitload, or been fired, I should say, from a shitload of jobs, that your father was your last chance. I think it was your last real chance outside of going back to minimum wage. And that's why he held on to that job for 5 years. But it's funny how the moment Phil leaves the nest, or the nest, if you will. I was going to call it the pig pen, but I'd like to think they're not slobs like Phil is. But then again, Phil has had some not so comfortable things to say about his mother and how she, and the cleanliness of that house. I would never speak of my mother that way. You know what I'm saying? I would never speak of my mother that way. So for someone like this piece of human garbage to do so, I find that to be uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So that's why if I seem like I was kind of jagged at that point, it's because I could never imagine me speaking about my mother that way. I couldn't imagine speaking on my parents like the way he does. So that's why I was kind of wrestling with that a little bit. My apologies. That's just a personal thing. But anyway, he's spoken not so kindly about his parents. But it's funny how the moment he ends up moving out on his own is when shit basically starts to fall apart. You know what I mean? He said he was at the helicopter company for 5 years. He was on YouTube for at least 3 of that 5. At least. Before he ended up... Yeah, he must have worked there for at least 2 years before he ended up getting fired. So he must have been on YouTube for at least 3 when that happened. And then, so we'll say 3 years. 3 years that he was still doing YouTube videos, but while living on his own, Yeah, I'd say while living. No, he was only living. He moved in there what 2009? Because he got fired in 2010, and he didn't get out of there until like 2014. So yeah, so like we'll say 2 years, I guess. So he basically lived on his own for 2 years is what I'm trying to say. He lived on his own for 2 years while having his adult job, and then he fucked everything up, and then had no choice to go to YouTube. Under those stipulations, right? And that's just an estimate, by the way. But under those stipulations and under those criterias, it only makes sense that his father kind of knew, like, if he didn't get him a job at his company, this idiot right here is going to be working minimum wage for the rest of his life. It seems kind of obvious. It seems very, very apparent. With that being said, even once he moved out on his own and he started getting, and he felt empowered, he certainly felt entitled, he ends up fucking all that up and getting fired anyway. I don't think he really had a lot of options or a lot of prospects. And if he did, he wasn't going to make any job he ended up going to after the fact, whether in the field or not, he wasn't going to make what he was making. Not even close. He said I think Phil said he was like a sales rep or something at that company. He had been doing that since he got into the company. He's been doing the same position for like 5 years. But I thought he had all this talent. I thought he was so intelligent. Where was the ambition at? Where was the wherewithal? Where was any of that? Even after he bought the condo so he could be closer to to his job, he was still working the same position. Well, that doesn't seem very good. That seems a bit lackluster, to say the very least. It's almost like he's not living up to his full potential. Unless that was his potential. And maybe that's the reason why his father put him into brought him onto that restructure project that Phil said that he was ahead of, and he was doing this, that, and the third. Maybe that's the reason why his father brought him in onto that project, to try to show, and I've said this before, to try to show others in the company that, hey, he can handle something like this. Let me put him on this project with me, and I'll show you guys. But then Phil ran around there bitching about how his back hurt, and was complaining about how, well, why do you guys want me to do extra work when I'm already doing this here, and I don't make the money that I should be making doing this project or working in this department? I'm only getting paid for what a sales rep or whatever his position was. I'm only getting paid for that. But now I'm over here restructuring your whole company, and I'm not making six figures for that. These are the things that got his ass fired. Well, some of the things that got him fired. It's amazing when you really put all of it together. He really didn't have any options. At least that's my opinion. He didn't actually have any options. He exhausted all of them. His father was his last shot. And as soon as he got let go from that, it was game over. That's why he never went looking for another job. He knew it. He knew it from the rip. And that's why this YouTube, this online thing, he had to get it going. It needed to pop off. Because if not, he's going right back home to mommy and daddy. And I don't think he can handle that. I don't think maybe even they really wanted that. Something to think about. DSP News.
So there are two of them. There's one called the Protect IP Act, and there's one called the Stop Online Piracy Act. One is in the House, and one is in the Senate right now. We have two governing bodies in the United States. For those of you who aren't, domestic fans of mine, there are two governing bodies that make laws in the United States outside of the presidency. And so, right now, they are looking at these bills and they're debating them. Now, last week, the House and the Senate started talking about these bills. And again, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched my previous videos about these bills, because, let me tell you, over 1 million people have written either their congressman or their senator, and have said, listen, these bills are wrong, they're too general, they will destroy the internet, do not pass these bills. 1 million. Just think about that. How many things in our country can we say 1 million people stood up against? And it's an overwhelming showing of opposition to these bills. However, even with all this opposition, there are still people in the government. That's right, there are still senators and congresspeople saying, well, fuck it. We know better than everyone. We're going to pass it anyway. So there's still people who are staunchly for these bills, and they don't want to hear, they don't want to listen to reason. In fact, when they actually had hearings on these bills about a week ago in the House and Senate, they didn't allow anyone from the opposing side of the argument to speak out. No one.
That's funny. That sounds like Phil streams, don't they? Oh, Phil has a frame in mind about a particular topic when he goes into his stream. He talks about it. People say that he's blatantly wrong, and they can even explain why they're wrong, or why he's wrong, I should say. And guess what? They get banned. That sounds pretty familiar. But if you think about it, also, Phil kind of runs his streams not only as his pre-streams especially, not only as a glorified fucking therapy session, because that's really what it is. It's pathetic, by the way. But it is almost like he's running court. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, a lot of people make the joke that he runs that shit like a teacher. Like he sounds like someone, like a preschool teacher, if you will, trying to talk to adolescents, which is it is that. Certainly it is. But also, think about when he tries to publicly humiliate people who he feels that have done him wrong and they owe him an apology. He's literally holding public court, if you think about it. You know what I mean? He does. I mean, that's the way I look at it. It's almost like he's trying to hold court, and you're going to get humiliated in front of everybody else. That goes back to the to that scene from El Crimson King in the I think that was in the second video that he did, where Phil has his little crown and shit, and the troll is unmasked, and they're kind of holding court to decide what to do with him. Same concept. Which court, back in medieval times, was no different than what essentially going to court now. So same concept. But that's kind of what he does too. That's not even kind of. That is what he does. So he didn't even learn from the mistakes of others. He doesn't even learn from his own mistakes. Oh, and I kind of like how he said that since my last video, 1 million people have accumulated to go ahead and speak out. Oh yeah, Phil, you were the one that was actually staunchly at the front of that movement, despite the fact that none of the videos that you did on this particular subject have over 1 million views. And it's been, 8 years? You know what I'm saying? Almost 9, and they still haven't hit 1 million views? But 1 million people went out there, though. I'm sure all of them watched Phil Burnell's video together in little groups around the trash barrel at that time, and that's what made them all go out there and do it. Fight the good fight. Sure, makes sense.
From the technology industry, Google, Yahoo, AOL, all these people who we know that these are horrible, these things to be passed in their current form, were not allowed to speak. Instead, it was only the people who were for these bills who were allowed to speak on them. Complete and utter bullshit, and actually, that's a form of censorship. So we're already, before we've passed bills to censor the internet, they're censoring the voices of the people who are opposed to these bills. So here's where it was left off, just so everyone knows. Right now, there was a week of debate on these bills, and then there was a week of adjournment, because this past week in the United States was Thanksgiving week. It's a national holiday, and so our government takes a week off, basically, to go on vacation and celebrate the holiday. They will be re-adjourning on Monday to start talking about the Stop Online Piracy Act and the Protect IP Act yet again. And it's really scary because people are deathly afraid these are going to pass in their current form, and if they do, that's it. Like, we're not exaggerating, and there are people who are saying, oh, this is overblown, you shouldn't react like this, these bills will not affect things like YouTube. That's not the intention. In fact, there's actually a quote, I believe, from one of the people, or one of the senators who was like the head of one of these bills, like was really the person who had drafted it and pushed it through, and said, listen, we're not trying to target YouTube, so don't worry about it. Okay, let me tell you something. That's not how U.S. law works, and the fact that that person said that proves that that person isn't even fit to have their own office, okay? The way U.S. law works is there's a law.
I wouldn't go as far as saying that. I will say that they obviously don't understand the long-term ramifications of the situation. I'll agree with you on that one. To say they're not fit to have that office, despite the fact that you probably know little to nothing about what they've done prior to that, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of makes you blatantly ignorant by you making that statement. Just because they're voting against something or they're trying to pass through something that affects you. They may have done other things, though, in the past, or even before this bill came up, that may have benefited you, but you wouldn't know that because you're a fucking idiot. But that does bring up another argument, or it brings up another instance. I was watching I think the YouTube channel is just called Esports, right? And they go over just that, esports. A lot of stuff from the FGC, Dota, League of Legends, stuff like that. And there was they have a video they did like a year ago that went over esports scandals, mainly match rigging. And I kind of want to go over that video now because some of the situations I have looked into, and it was super interesting. But anyway, in one of the situations, right, it was a CS:GO team, and a bunch of these young hotshots got caught up in a situation. Some of them said they had no clue about what was going on. Some of the other guys were knee deep in it and they couldn't get out, whatever. And all of them got lifetime bans except for one guy. One guy got away. He's part of Cloud9, or at least he was. I think he might be still part of Cloud9. Is it something Doodle? It's not Snickerdoodle. I don't know. It's something Doodle. And he was the only one that walked away essentially unscathed, so to speak. I mean, the reputation's still on him a little bit, but most people say that he actually got a legitimate redemption story. Anyway, the writer who saw the game, who saw the match that was thrown, I think he saw it live, he the next day wrote a column saying that, hey, I think this right here is an example of match rigging. And I think something needs to be done about this. Now, I want you to... Now, I'll tie these in together in just a second. Phil's saying that this guy right here says that he's passing this bill along, but it won't affect YouTube. And Phil is saying, well, you don't understand what the full ramifications are. You don't know when you pass this through. You don't know how it's going to affect YouTube and in what degree. Let's go back to this writer again. This writer said that, I think these guys did match rigging, and then did a follow-up investigation. He brought a lot of eyes onto this thing. Come to find out, at the end of the day, they did find out that it was match rigging, and I think Val ended up lifetime banning all these people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was like 5 or 6 players. They all got ripped. You know what I'm saying? Except for that one guy I told you about, who's part of Cloud9. They all got ripped. Years later, the writer, who basically kicked all this off, is like, well, I thought what they did was wrong, and I had to say something. I was compelled to say something. I'm not saying his words like word for word, so I'm kind of freestyling it a little bit. What they did was wrong. It needed to be called out, but I didn't think they would. I didn't think the repercussions were going to be the way they were. I don't think they should have just gotten lifetime bans. If I had known that, and then he kind of stops just short of that, and he's like, I wanted it to be addressed. I wanted it to be stopped. I think that was too far, giving these guys lifetime bans. Here's the problem with that. One, you went into this wanting some type of wanting an investigation, first off, which you got it, and you wanted repercussions, which you got. You're mad because, lifetime bans were thrown to these guys, which they were mainly kids, and now they can't play the game professionally anymore. Well, there's a reason why Val did that. They did that because they have investors too, especially into the tournaments and to esports in general. If you go ahead and let known cheaters come back a year or two later, you hurt the integrity not only of the game, not only of the league, but of the of the game, of the team, of the league, and of the sport in general. That's why Val and a lot of those esports franchises and leagues throw lifetime bans around like that. They do it because they're trying to protect the overall business. And if you got to cut a couple of fucking weeds out of the situation, if you got to go ahead and pull some parasites to save the rest of the organism itself, then guess what? That's what you do. So this movement that keeps going on in esports where, okay, these guys get cheated, give them 2 years, a 2-year ban, and then let them come back is fucking ridiculous. The reason why, from the players to the teams to the Comcasters, to the commentators, to the people who make professional careers of just breaking down matches, the reason why all of you guys are making the money that you're making, and the reason why a lot of you garnered the prestige that you're making, is because you cleaned your own fucking yard. And when you clean it permanently. You don't just halfway clean it up, you clean it up permanently. And you keep it clean. Period. That's the situation. That's what you do. If you go ahead and do it half-assed and say, oh, he was young, oh, they didn't know better, oh, they have so much fucking talent, so the fuck what? People said the same shit in the NBA when they had match rigging, and teams and players knew about it. They said that in not only the NBA, but they said that in college. Shit, they said that in high school. They say the same shit about baseball, and everybody knows that shit has had a fucking illustrious history with match rigging. They say that in hockey. They say that in every sport that has rigging. It's what they do. So if you can link the players directly to it, you get them the fuck up and out the league. If you can do that. Obviously, that's hard, but, you know, it is what it is. So that's why esports is able to thrive the way it is now. Because if not, they would have strangled themselves in their own fucking cradle, to be perfectly honest with you. So for him to sit there and call for the investigation, who led the charge to it, and then turned around years later and said, well, I didn't expect this, I didn't expect that. What did you want? You knew what you wanted walking into this. You knew what you wanted. You wanted repercussions. You wanted the situation to be addressed, you wanted the plot to be completely flushed out, and you wanted those who were involved to be punished. That's what happened. To sit back and say, I didn't expect this, I didn't want this, I think this is unfair, makes you a goddamn hypocrite. Because your sport might not even be where it is now if you had let that shit go. Just something to think about. But anyway, that kind of ties into what I was saying about Phil.
Establishes a precedent, and then everything after that goes according to that precedent unless another law overturns it. So regardless of if this law is meant to target a website like YouTube it's really not meant to censor a website like YouTube, there's nothing to prevent, let's say, some company who gets pissed off, some corporation, and they see a video on YouTube with a clip of something from one of their commercials and a person speaking out against it and saying this company is bad. There's nothing to stop that company from basically telling YouTube, that's it. You're legally liable to police all the footage on your website, and if you don't take this footage down, we're going to charge you with a felony, okay? It's preposterous. YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, these kind of websites are based off of user-created content, and there's no reasonable way that these websites could screen every single video or picture or anything that could possibly be copyrighted content that gets uploaded to them on a daily basis and get them up and live to the public in a reasonable manner. So by making these websites liable for everything that's uploaded to them, which is what these bills are actually aiming to do, you're actually completely changing their business models. You're actually fucking with freedom of speech, because let's take a look at a website like YouTube where videos are uploaded in places of political unrest. So look, here's what really happened at the protest today. The police beat the fuck out of everyone, and this is a way for people to have freedom of speech on the internet. The government says, we don't care. We just want to censor everything. So we're going to...
What the fuck is up with you rocking back and forth like that? And you're standing. That's just starting to make me nauseous. Alright. Yet again, as I said, I did agree on his previous point that when you pass certain stuff along, you may not know what the repercussions are, but, you know, it is what it is. You don't understand what the full situation. I do agree with him on that to a degree. Sorry. What I will say is that I want to really point out was that whole freedom of speech thing. Oh, well, what if a company ends up going on YouTube, or someone who works for that company goes on YouTube, finds an individual, a person who makes a video about a company they don't like and say, hey, you shouldn't support this company, and so on and so forth, and they hold YouTube liable. Is that fair? No, not at all. That's why the DMCA fucking system is fucking bullshit. Because if someone has an opinion about something, they should have that opinion. The fact that people can flag down shit, whether a corporation or just a person themselves, an individual, can flag down something because they don't like it, is one of the hypocrisies of YouTube, the commentator community, not as a whole, but some of the people in it, and really people like Phil. People like Darksydephil, Rich from Review Tech USA, Monday Matt, all these people, just to name a few, have all said at one time or another that they're all about freedom of speech on the internet, and certainly on YouTube, right? And yet these are three people that have all flagged people down and had channels taken down and had videos taken down because stuff was said about them that they didn't like. So where was the freedom of speech at then? Where was the freedom of expression at then? Someone took footage and went ahead and made a compilation of it. Like, they cut out the bullshit, they added stuff to it, they made it transformative, which all fell under fair use and copyright law, and Phil still figured out a way to get it taken down. Well, he did it through his MCN. And then it went back up, and then it's surmised that he tried to flag it again, and YouTube was like, nah, not this time. So how the fuck are you going to advocate for free speech, right? And freedom of expression for content creators, which by definition means that they create something. But then you want it censored when it hurts your bottom line, or when you feel that it hurts you. Like, since when has anybody been above criticism? And how much of a hypocrite do you look like sitting here advocating for people online to have freedom of speech and freedom of expression when you spent your later years, and even up till today, trying to censor people, or convincing people that are part of your audience or part of your fan base or part of your cult to go out and do the exact same goddamn thing, to go out and censor people, to have people's freedom of speech taken away from them? Well, that seems kind of weird, don't it? And then he's mad, saying that people go out of their way to discount every little thing that he's done. But if you weren't a fucking hypocrite, then what would there be to discount?
Make these websites liable to make sure that nothing is copyrighted content immediately before it goes live. And if it goes live, these websites can be shut down, can be blacklisted in a search engine or on the internet altogether, where if you try to type it in and find a website, you can't even get to it. And we're going to make them legally liable so that it's a felony every time that one of these videos appears on their website. It's preposterous, okay? We all know that these websites
something like that probably wouldn't have passed anyway. So hence the reason why YouTube does what it does now, where either A, it's copyright claimed, meaning whoever it is that actually claimed it, or who says they claimed it, and whatnot, actually get the proceeds, or it gets blocked worldwide. Like, it's funny, people forget that when you strike down a video, right, or if you find a piece of your property in something, you can just put a third-party claim on it, which means that if it is monetized, you can take ad revenue from it. Or you can ask for a video takedown notice, or you can have the video blocked worldwide. You don't have to actually strike the channel. It doesn't need to happen that way. You can merely just have the video pulled down. That's an option. So when, for example, because I'm feeling really reference heavy today, when Susie Liu has gone on this recent campaign taking people's videos down that criticize her, she said, she's been saying, I did what I had to do to protect my intellectual property and whatnot, and I left that in the hands of my YouTube manager. I never said I wanted a strike. You know what I mean? I just wanted the video taken down. But that's not true, because you flexed on Twitter that all those videos were going to get taken down, and more than likely the channels would get taken down too. Huh. That's kind of interesting. That's kind of silly. So you do know better. But see, the thing is, though, is what she does is kind of taboo amongst YouTube content creators to sit there and flag down or strike down other people's channels. You know what I'm saying? When you could easily just reach out to them. And if you can't reach out to them, or they're not going to respond, then just ask to have the video taken down. You don't have to actually strike the channel. Everybody goes for the strikes because they really want that whole channel to go away. Just something to think about.
Self-policing, they have automated things in place already. There was
but the point I was trying to make, is that the reason why YouTube has a situation in place, like I said, where they'll just copyright claim the video, or they'll block the video, or you can't monetize the video. They do that to try to regulate not only the content that's going out, and you really have to make sure it's transformative to actually be able to profit from it, but on top of that, to shield themselves. And so the system that we have now, in some way, shape, or form, if this whole shit went down with SOPA and PIPA, it probably would have ended up going down the same way. More than likely. But that's just an assumption on my part.
Digital Millennium Copyright Act in the 1990s that's in place to protect things, and for the most part, people agree that that act is doing a decent job of stopping online piracy. There are places that can't be touched, let's be honest. There are websites and things that are pirate websites, and that's really what I think the aim of these acts that are in our governing body right now are aiming and targeting to shut down. The problem is it won't shut them down. That's the problem. These things they always find another way to come back and reform themselves on the internet. What it's really going to do, it's going to affect things like YouTube and Twitter that they're not actually trying to affect. So, here's what's happening, okay? Re-adjourning on Monday, our government, to talk about these ads. There's a couple things going on, which I think are pretty cool. First of all, Senator Wyden, who is from Oregon, or Oregon, however you say it. I apologize, I don't live in Oregon.
You mean Oregon? Did you really say Oregon? Were you trying to say origami? He didn't really just say that. That's beneath me. I'm not gonna. I mispronounce shit too, but I've never mispronounced Oregon. Alright, bro. I'll let it go. I'm gonna let it go.
Or Oregon. Some people say it's Oregon, so it's Oregon, whatever. He is completely against these bills. He knows that they are so ridiculously worded, so overgeneralized. He has threatened that he will filibuster our government. Okay? What is a filibuster? A filibuster is when a lawmaker, knows that something that's being rushed through or pushed through for approval is wrong. And they're afraid that if it gets passed, that it will basically destroy something or be detrimental to the country. So they take it upon themselves to stand up in front of the entire governing body there and give a long-winded speech to basically just delay the hell out of the government, okay? So, let's say, for example, on Monday, if it looks like this is about to be passed, he will stand up and say, fuck this. You know what? You want to try to screw with the internet? Now I'm going to screw with you because you are all so involved with your own self-interest, you don't care about the internet or the commerce that's been created by the internet, and you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to stand up and filibuster you. And what's happened now, Demand Progress, which is the non-profit organization who I've been talking to a couple times and really I've been following on these issues, is basically gathering a listing of names for Senator Wyden. And all he's going to do for his filibuster, he's going to say, listen, this bill is absolutely wrong. It's overgeneral in its current form. Everyone in this governing body knows it, but you're only passing it for your own selfish fucking interests. So what I'm going to proceed to do is read the name of every single person on the internet who submitted their name to me who says they're opposed to this bill. And he's just going to stand there and read names all day. Okay? And he can do that all week. He can do that for a month. He could do it, until finally someone listens to fucking reason and says, alright, let's actually have a real discussion about the pros and cons of these bills instead of trying to push them through and censor the people who know that these are going to destroy existing business and existing commerce on the internet. So thank God for people like Senator...
Is it just me, or is he really just rocking back and forth like that? Jesus, Phil. Stand still.
Wyden, seriously, someone
like he rocks back and forth. I mean, I think the side to side wouldn't bother me as much, but God, he's literally rocking back and forth.
It's just he has a no nonsense attitude, and he's not going to put up with the bullshit. He's like, no, I know this bill's wrong. I'm not going to sit idly by and let it pass. Fuck these people. I'm going to filibuster. So, if you're interested in that, if you want to possibly get your name read or you want to learn more, I've put a link in the description of this video. I believe it's stopcensorship.org is the link. And you'll see a video from Senator Wyden, and you'll have the ability to submit your name and your message saying, I oppose these bills. These definitely cannot pass in their current form. And he will have your name on that list, and he'll be able to read it during the filibuster, if it gets to that point. The other cool thing that's going on, another not-for-profit organization called Fight for the Future, they're trying to organize another way for people to contact their congressman or their senator. Previously, we've all written emails. I mean, I think everyone who's heard about this issue at this point has now sent an email to their lawmaker saying, listen, we don't agree with this, and that's why we've had over a million emails go out to our lawmakers. It is quite disturbing that our lawmakers say, oh, fuck this, and they're just going to ignore them and do whatever they want for their own selfish interests. So what Fight for the Future is doing is they are organizing a massive call-in next week. Now what that means is they're going to give you the means to call your senator, your congressman or congresswoman, and tell their actual office whether or not they pick up, because 90% of the time you're not going to get them on the phone, but to tell them, I oppose this bill. It's absolutely ridiculous that you're trying to push this bill through in its current form. If you are, I don't know, because again, not every single congressman or senator is up for these bills. There are actually a lot of them who are against it, but they're really you know, they don't know if they're going to have enough support to shut these bills down. And a massive call-in. Just imagine flooding the phones of every senator, every congressperson, starting on Monday. All they hear about all day is how these bills are wrong and these need to be shut down. It's a way, it's political.
Did you ever think about maybe the reason why they don't pick up is because they're talking to other people, or other people are flooding their phones? So it's not like they don't want to hear people. It's because there's somebody else tying up the line. Just like kind of like what you're trying to advocate right now. Which, if the lines do get tied up, then how do you expect people to be heard? And even if it takes a week. You ever thought about that? At all? No? Okay.
Activism at its best. It's a way for us to stop these bills before they start, and we need to do it. We need to organize and do it. So I've also put a link on how you can go to the website for Fight for the Future, find out information on how you can participate in this massive call-in drive that we're doing this week coming up, and I urge everyone to take action, okay? So, all I can say is this. I'm not against our government in any way. I'm not. And as you know, I don't do videos like this all the time. I only do it when I really feel there's a real threat to, first of all, my livelihood, because let's face it, I'm a full-time YouTuber. All I do is make videos for YouTube, and if all of a sudden a bill gets passed that's going to censor YouTube, my livelihood could be destroyed. Regardless of now if it even makes me, say for example, if it might make me legally liable for putting a video game playthrough on the internet and make me a felon, which of course is absolutely preposterous, but regardless of if that even happens or not, just the censorship of YouTube. Imagine if every time I upload a video to YouTube, it takes...
Now, yet again, you guys hearing the theme about, oh, this affects me, this affects my livelihood, oh, if anything that happens that I put on stuff, if I upload something to YouTube, or if it's preposterous if I put up something, a playthrough and whatnot, and I could be liable I could be liable for it. What about YouTube as a whole? You hear how it's really just fill, and it's not YouTube as a whole? Which goes back to the thing that I've been pushing for, I don't know, I've been pushing for a little while now, that he never cared about people giving a fuck about the gameplay. He wanted people to be invested and committed to him. Because then, at that point, it doesn't matter what he puts out, you're going to eat it up anyway. That's Phil's whole agenda. It's been that way now. Well, it's always been that way, I should say. But you can see it's way more pronounced now. His agenda is, excuse me, to be invested in him. Then, you'll support whatever it is that he puts out. And I think, as time goes on with these videos, you'll see that. You'll see it very clearly, at least I hope. Because that's really what he's been going for.
3 days for it to go live because an actual person has to view that video and approve it. Just imagine how different YouTube would be if you can't control the content you're trying to put up there. Imagine if YouTube got blacklisted and no one could go to the website worldwide. And by the way, that's what I mean. I'm not talking about just US. If you are an international person right now, you don't live in the United States, you live somewhere outside of the United States, you are still going to be affected because these websites will effectively still have to change the way that they operate, and people like me may be legally liable for things that we're putting on the internet, and YouTube will be forced to take down our content if it's found to be copyrighted content, even though technically it is not. It's protected under fair use as a transformative work. But again, this is what I mean. These bills are so broad and overgeneralized that it's not going to be clear what's copyrighted, what's not copyrighted, who's protected, who's not protected, and all it's going to take is one zealot, one person who takes it upon themselves to put a crusade against YouTube and the internet, and they will just fucking start attacking everything and destroying this whole new culture, this whole new business and commerce that's been created by this kind of social media on the internet, and it's not right, it's ridiculous. So please, I urge...
Well, it's funny how at least he didn't have to worry about any of that screwing him over, because he screwed himself over and fucked up his own business before it ever got up off the ground. This idiot literally strangled himself in his own cradle, or his own pig pen, if you will, before he could ever do anything. Which has always been like the most amazing aspect of Darksydephil, is that he swears to God over the years he has done so much. That might make a good screenshot actually. But he has done so goddamn much, and in actuality he didn't do shit. He really didn't. You spammed the system. You spammed the system with a shitload of shitty videos. That's it. You didn't do much of anything. You know what I mean? Like, if you really, really think about it. If you want to talk, or you didn't do anything positive, if you will. He's left a black eye, a shit stain, if you will, on YouTube's gaming community, if not the gaming community at large, that may never actually get washed away. That'll be his largest impact, I think, at least on YouTube, the YouTube gaming community, when it's all said and done. And I think, and I might be jumping the gun here a little bit, but I think when people also look back, people are going to be like, well, why did they allow this to happen for so long? Now, granted, that would be considered censorship, if you think about it. But then we have an idiot who's been calling for censorship for anybody who goes against himself or his content since damn near the beginning. Oh, you have something to say about me under my video? Get blocked. Oh, you have something to say on my forum? Get blocked. Oh, you want to say something to me on Twitter? Get blocked. He blocks people on Twitter now who don't even tweet at him, who've never tweeted at him, and he blocks them. Half the people that I know on Twitter got blocked by him and never even tweeted at him. That's insane. But yet he had the nerve to say he stands up for internet censorship. Or, sorry, for freedom of speech on the internet. Which he says every once in a while now, too. When, in actuality, he was already censoring people before this all came up. He's the pinnacle of censorship. If it doesn't affect me, I don't care. Don't bring it to me. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it because it doesn't hurt me. Oh, well, Phil's not addressing the issues. Oh, well, now you're going to get blocked because I told you I didn't want to hear it. Well, what happened to that whole freedom of speech thing, Phil? I told him I didn't care. So maybe you don't care. But what if other people in your audience do? No, the people in my audience, they're my true fans. They want to come here, watch my footage, cheer me on, and that's it. They don't need to hear any outside elements. Outside elements? Phil, it's a comment section. They can theoretically speak about what they want. And especially since the initial part of the conversation was addressed to you, and apparently your inability to do anything, which is really a contradicting, because didn't you say, Phil, that, oh, I'm not the person to stand by and let people get hurt and not say anything? But you do that every day. You only really speak up when it has something to do with you. Semantics.
If you can, speak out. Contact your congressman, contact your senator, spread the word about this issue. Spread this video. Tell people, listen, you have to watch this video. It's extremely important. Please, don't sit idly by. Don't be one of those people that says, we'll just let it go. It will never pass. I see so many comments on my previous videos. Oh, this bill just can't pass in its current form. Don't worry about it. No, you have no idea how our government works. Our government will pass whatever they want unless people oppose them. You must speak up, okay? Please. Contact Senator Wyden and tell him, read my name. Participate in this phone-in coming up this week. Continue to send emails to your senators, to your congresspeople, and say, do not pass this bill. Again, spread the word. We have to make such a fucking noise about this. It's already in the mainstream media now. If you've watched over the past week, you will see news stories in the mainstream media, although you might notice that they're not exactly as prominent as they should be.
This is coming from the same idiot who made all this money and didn't save any of it. Like, look at how scared he is. And that's because this idiot has little to no money in the bank. He's already living outside of his means. And the only reason why he wanted to buy a house or condo, however they classify that shit in his Wakanda in Washington State, is so he'd have more place to put his stuff. That's the only reason why him and Panda bought that goddamn house. Well, Phil bought that house. Is because he needed more place for his shit. And then didn't even actually put any of that stuff up. He didn't put any of that stuff up or bring none of that shit out until after Panda left. And here's the interesting part about that, now that I think about it. So, you bought all of this gaming paraphernalia, yeah? You got your little, your CM Punk plaque, you got all this shit. Why didn't you hang any of that stuff up in your room? Like your office, I should say. Why didn't you hang it up there? Instead, you had to wait until Panda left you to then go ahead and decorate your house, which is really just your upstairs, honestly, and treat that shit like this was some pathetic poor man's version of an art gallery. Jesus Christ, man, you're a special type of idiot.
That's probably because the media is part of this whole Motion Picture Association, TV. They're part of it. So they're trying to act like this isn't a big issue, when in reality, if you go on the internet, the second you go on the internet, it's the #1 thing and the #1 story you're going to find on the internet because it's such a big deal. So please, please, take it seriously. Speak out. I'm going to do it. Thousands of my fans have done it. Millions of people in the country have done it. It's time to participate. It's time to shut down these bills so we can have a free and open internet without censorship, without blacklisting, without bullshit. Let's tell our government they can't fuck with what we've created and with what we love. Okay? And that's the bottom line. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking this seriously. Again, please spread information about this video. It's the only video I'm even putting up on my channel today. I'm going to be at a tournament, but I'm sacrificing today and not putting any other videos up on my channel just so this video can be seen. Please.
He's not lying about that, but he's really, what he's trying to do is bottleneck all of his viewership onto this video so it can get as big as his first one, which I think was the biggest. I think the first video he puts out, we haven't gone over that one yet. I think, like I said, I think it's at like 800. It's somewhere between 600 and 800,000 years and years after the fact, and then I think the next highest video is like 200,000 maybe. So that's the real reason why nothing's going on the channel. He's trying to literally bottleneck everything so he can have all eyes on this, and somehow he still failed. Isn't that predictable? Let's be honest, it's predictable.
I'm serious about this. Spread the word, and hopefully we'll be able to stop these bills in their tracks. And I will update you as the week progresses. If there's any more news, I will definitely inform everyone on what happens. So thanks a lot. I'm Darksydephil. Thank you for listening. I'll see you for hopefully today, if you're interested in fighting games, at the tournament. Again, twitch.tv/don'tblowthis, and follow me at They Call Me DSP on Twitter for information on that tournament and to submit questions during the tournament. And that's it. Thanks a lot. What's going on, everyone?
Jesus Christ, that rocking got me all jacked up. Oh, Phil, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give me a chance to go ahead and square up. Well, actually, we already squared up and he lost. Let's go ahead. Give me a chance to straighten up a little bit, and then we will reconvene at the end for final thoughts. Yikes. So, let's see here. So, this is another attempt for Phil to go at basically what seemed like a monthly cash grab on the back of a movement that he really wasn't participating in, or he thought his participation was him making the video and having everybody else actually do all the footwork. Do you think Phil was going to try to stay on the phone for that call-in protest? Nope. Do you think he was actually going to go out there and actually protest in front of his in front of his local governor's office or anything about the situation? No. Do you think he wrote any letters? No, he didn't do any of that. He made a YouTube video. He put a bunch of stuff at the bottom. That's it. There you go, piggies of war. Go off and do the hard work. And that's essentially what he expected. To be honest with you, there are a few things that I kind of agreed on, but that I still think he had wrong. I think mainly what I ended up really doing was just doing a lot of comparisons to him and his behavior compared to other lolcows and the general thought process. I think that at the end of the day, Phil made one video talking about this. It got a shitload of views and he ran with it. Period. I don't think even Phil himself believed about the repercussions or the consequences that were going to come out of it, like he says, I think it was a really quick way to bring in views. And since it was view-based at the time for him, I mean, that's all that really matters. That's it, to be honest. I don't see that there was any type of real advantages that he really cared in any other way. And I think, to be honest with you, seeing a lot of people participate in that and his belief that it was because of him, which is ridiculous in its own right, I think it made him feel empowered. I think it made him feel special. I think it made him feel important. I think there was something outside of gaming. You got to understand, like, he doesn't have any word in the FGC. He had some, I guess his word meant something in gaming, but I think he was trying to branch out from gaming into, like, politics. And Phil has said before that he has wanted to speak about politics. I think at one time he wanted to actually have a political channel where he just talks about politics. That didn't happen because, well, he'd get blown the fuck out of the water on some shit like that. And I think he realized that very, very clearly. Like, Review Tech USA is barely can get away with doing that shit. Monday Matt knows at least most of the facts and he still gets blown out. So these are just some of the things you have to kind of take into consideration. I think he made a smart move by not doing a political channel. I think this was really just to feed his own ego. I think he wanted to feel important. And it was something that was game related, so he ran with it. And I think if he really did actually set a benchmark, if he actually did put a dent in this with something solid that he could actually tie his name to, he would have tried to go into politics. He would have tried to go into internet censorship, mainly about the internet. I think he would have actually tried very, very hard to go with that and try to expand off of it as best he could. But I think he's smartened up, or someone else talked some sense in him and was like, hey, don't do that. You're just going to make yourself look stupid. And no one really cares. And I think that's one of the things that hurts him now. In Phil's, not later years, even though he is certainly old. Not old because he's 38. He's old because he fucking is old. Because he didn't take care of himself. I think Phil, in these later years, he's starting to realize that... I mean, fuck it, I'm gonna come out and say it. He's coming to fucking realize that his legacy doesn't mean jack shit to anybody. Period. That it's a joke. And the only person it means anything to is like him, Sidella, Straight Cash Homie, and the rest of those idiots over there. And none of them have no word, none of them have anything else to say. You know what I'm saying? They don't have any clout, they don't have any real backing except for each other, and they're not even very good at doing that. He realizes his legacy is a joke. Everything that he's done, anything and almost everything he's ever done doesn't mean anything. It's merely there to be picked apart. And I think that sentiment is slowly but surely sinking in. And I think he's hurt by it. I think he realizes that when he leaves the internet, he's only going to be a laughingstock, and he'll never be known for anything else. Even his playthroughs don't hold up the test of time. Not to say that they ever would. Not to say that anybody ever thought they were going to. They certainly never did. And I think he's starting to realize that everything he allegedly, in air quotes, built, it crumbled a long time ago. You know what I mean? They crumbled a long time ago. They're like the pyramids, if you think about it, in Egypt. Except for they were half-ass built, and now they're just completely and totally dilapidated. And the only reason why people don't mow it down, or don't basically disassemble them and whatnot, is out of pity. They're like, he tried. You know what I mean? And that's why we leave it there, as a testament to him at least trying. And that has to hurt. That has to hurt. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. And I'll see you guys for the next video, where we go over some more stuff and have some more laughs and shit, because we're all about the funnies here. And also cut up bacon, because why the hell not? Ladies and gentlemen, this is DSP News 2nd Edition. I've been your host. Take care of yourselves. Oh man, that's brutal. That's brutal. Imagine that everything... real quick, as a closing thought. Just imagine that anything and everything that you've done over the last... I say his entire life, but let me be less of an asshole about this. and say everything that you ever done online means nothing. I want you to think about that. Over a decade that you've contributed to this shit, made close to $2 million doing it, by the way, if not more than that. But imagine everything you've done over the last 10 years. It means not a goddamn thing, and you've made almost $2 million, and you don't have a dollar to show for it. Must hurt.